proposal changed midstream that we really shouldn't be even accepting or talking about because that wasn't part of the original RFP. Although a really good proposal, I don't think we can accept it. That second one, we got to go back to the original one that was proposed, which then puts us back to, where do we sit? And I think it would be of good interest for us to kind of put together a list of, the pros and cons of all the proposals. I mean, even DW, which we said, no,
Sure.
not the right person. I mean, there are pros and cons to that. And if you look at integrated Manchester housing, no, I'm going to say that, Manchester Integrated Housing Solutions, whatever, which one, how did that go? That seemed like a really good proposal because it encapsulated some of what we were looking for. But again, I don't think our RFP, the RFP that was put out really clearly defined what we wanted to see with this particular project in place. So, I mean, that's where I sit, is that I think a good start, but I don't think we have enough to say this is the one that's, and again, the select board's going to make the final decision no matter what, but that this is the one we should go with, or should be.
I agree as well. Unfortunately, the later introduction of the memorandum kind of is one piece, but I think unfortunately for one of the other proposals, they came to the table, I think, with an understanding that maybe there was another way to bring the infrastructure up. They didn't really focus on coming down, let's say, airport, and I think they need to be given that opportunity to frankly come down airport so they can put together perhaps a more comprehensive, if that's what they choose to do or not.
I agree. I mean, I think the recommendation should be probably just reject them all at this point in time. And
we also
send out another RFP.
Okay.
Give them 45 days or whatever's a good, whatever a good number is, to come back and rewrite the RFP to reflect more of the concerns that we might have.
I think given our role as an advisory board, I think the most important thing is that we provide as much information to the select board so that they can. It's also, can I just say, it's a little weird saying select board when I'm on the board. When I'm talking to myself in the third person. That we give them enough information to make that decision with all of the additional pieces, because obviously all of the plans were written differently, right? They have different formats. So being able to pull it all together and say, here's a cross comparison. What does it mean for how much of the land? What does it mean for the due diligence period? What does it mean for a potential cash outflow for the town later on? I think if we did that, that would give enough information to the select board to make that decision. We could certainly add that. I mean, that there's, a necessity or we feel that it could have been better served if X, Y, and Z were done from the town's perspective.
Right, but could we, I don't know if it would be under our purview, but could we review when a new RFP comes out? Could that come to us to look at before it goes to select board? I don't know. That'd be a legal question. I don't know.
Well, I would be willing to bet that any input on an RFP to make it more solid would be welcome, regardless who it.
Again, I don't.
Yeah.
And maybe an outside consultant.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't know if that's under our purview if we're allowed to do that. But if we are, I would make a recommendation for us to look at the RFP to make sure it's written.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any RFP is going to be all that comprehensive, and there's going to be areas where there's going to be holes in, and somebody's going to kind of figure it out. But at the end of the day, I think, we got a little bit more insight at this stage in the game to what possibly can be done and what cannot be done as it relates to that.
how we weight each, come up with the criteria for what we want to see in an RFP and give weighting each one when we get them back to say, okay, this one is getting 20 points and this is getting 30 points, or that sort of thing, where we,
An objective, maybe.
yeah, give them a.
I
And we've
mean,
come a long way.
well, I
I mean,
what I want to say on top of all of this is that I think what has been difficult for me is that obviously when I said last year that, or last meeting that we, this was the 1 year anniversary of this task force being in place, I was not meaning that, I wanted it with a little bit more pomp and whatnot, but pomp and circumstance. But the point is that I don't also want this to feel like we're stepping back at all. I think this is still to know that we are in a place right now where we have received interest in a piece of property. I'm not saying that any of them at this point wouldn't improve housing in Manchester, right? Because they all have merits. I'm not saying that any of them, that we wouldn't welcome them as a business in our town, right? On a privately held piece of property. I think at this point, given the parameters of the RFP and the differences between them with some of the points that you made, John, about infrastructure, et cetera, that it is best for us to keep this ball moving. You push it to the select board and say, here are the items. Here's what each are for. Here's where they represent. And the select board could then select one of them. They could.
Yep.
But I also want to make sure that we present as best of a hand. And I think we've done. I mean, I want to thank the board a lot because we've spent the better part of 2 months going over these, sometimes week after week after week after week.
Mhm.
And we all have busy schedules, as all of us do. So I don't want this to feel like we're letting this down. This is a step forward.
I think it's
And I don't think
an awakening.
I mean, because originally the hope or the thought was that would not, we were hoping that property would not fall under Act 250. which
That's
was
a whole
hope.
nother thing. Yeah.
Again, it was a hope that it would not fall under Act 250. And now that we are 99.9% sure it does, and we're 100% sure it does. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah.
So that being said, Act 250 is probably I would guess a minimum of a year to 18 months or so.
You said you were waiting, you're on 18
I'm
months?
at 18 months.
So that being said, well, if we put another RFP and it's 45 or 60 days, whatever the number is, whatever the select board decides to do, I don't think we're really wasting a lot of time. I mean, we want to do it as soon as possible, but I don't think we have to rush into it because it's still going to be a year to 18 months out before they even put a shovel in the ground. That would be, I would guess.
And we could go after a different piece of property too.
Or we could go after a different piece
And
of property, or we
sit
could,
for a while and do an RFP on what we were talking about the other day with, the land here. It's already got the sewer
Yeah.
water
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
so I guess my motion would be to reject them all at this point in time and come back, or however you want to,
Not recommend any. of
not
them.
recommend any of them at this point in time, and possibly put out another RFP and see where we go from there. Unless you want to word it differently,
Well, yeah, that's fine. I mean,
that's,
so your motion is to recommend that we not, because I think you corrected the original motion, which was what the beginning of the motion was to reject. I think you corrected to say we will not recommend any of them, but we would state that it would be best to follow up with a another RFP.
Mhm.
Is that what,
That's it. Unless-
In that same vein, I think that there should be explanations perhaps with each of the contractors as to why. Why are we kind of looking at it this one, you know, I mean, for instance, if the integrated is part of the memorandum, maybe it tainted something. If the airport piece, because he didn't bring infrastructure through airport, DW didn't provide enough information. You know, I think there should be a little bit more, so they have a better understanding of exactly what the rationale of the housing committee was as to why we're looking to send a new RFP out.
we actually haven't got a second on that yet. If there is.
I second it.
Yes, there's a motion second. We can further discuss at this point. Sorry. I kind of,
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just add to the like the RFP that gets reissued just needs to be clearer
More in depth.
and more in depth about what we're looking, now what that land could bring for, you know, what kind of infrastructure investment does that developer need to bring to the table? Because we have numbers, and my understanding is, that show what it would take to get the sewer line out to that that location. So are they willing to make that investment? They need to understand what those dollars look like before I think they would even make a bid, perhaps. And then, you know, how many units are we looking to be in that workforce affordable housing? Does it have to be 20 or 30 or 50%?
In rental.
And rentals versus just single family homes. I mean, there was so much that was missing from that RFP that I think is essential for anybody to truly
Yeah.
put out a
Yeah.
solid proposal. I mean, we got proposals. I just feel like that they didn't have any direction is truly what we would like to see happen with
Can
that
do better.
property.
Modular, you know.
Whatever might
Would be
be.
like modular, would be like modular. Quicker fix to
Any-
housing on.
any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion to not recommend any of the three proposals, but recommend that a new RFP would be issued, which is more detailed based on the needs of the town's requirements. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is unanimous. So again, I know I stated this towards the beginning. I just wanted to say, I want to thank the members of this board, because I know that there were a ton of conversations between each of us trying to weigh these different plans and proposals. And I really want us to feel like we didn't just waste the last 2 months. We are moving forward. We have learned a ton. And I do believe that what we have learned and the parties that have come before us and you know, put their proposals, we can help shape potentially if there is a new RFP, how that proposal would look. And so that everything is above board, everything is like, you don't have to worry about, you know, that's why we got into the dilemma. We really like 2 of these, right?
Well, and I would thank the people that did
Yeah,
put the proposals in, because they spent a lot of time
yeah,
doing their proposals and
showing up.
showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. Just say your name when you get to the mic, please.
I'm Steve Rosenberg. I want to acknowledge the work that you all have put into this, and I want to inform you that Integrated is not likely to bid on a subsequent RFP, that we feel like we put a lot of time and energy into this. And I want to remind the board that our memorandum of understanding with the Levis family lasts for 4 years. And whether or not we choose to bid, that MOU stands. And that MOU will create constraints on any potential bidder. So if this is in fact how you wish to proceed, I'm informing you that we put a lot of time and energy into that and did a substantial amount of work with the Levises to negotiate that MOU. That's a 4-year MOU. And I want you all to keep that in mind in terms of you have a landlocked project.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I will state though that we don't have that power, so that will be coming to the select board. So obviously the select board will be the body that makes the decision of whether or not to move forward with any plan. So take or leave it with our recommendation. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Thank you, David Nunn. I didn't hear everything completely clearly, but one thing stood out. Did you say landlocked property? Is that correct?
Landlocked,
Landlocked.
what does that mean?
I guess the question on the table would be, who owns Airport Road?
Don't have an answer to that.
I don't have an answer to that. Okay. Anything else?
Supposed to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to close, yeah?
You had a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night.